Hello, this is Sierra and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video inside of Hermitcraft Season Clockwork. It's still on Impulse's perspective. We are on Story 8, as you can tell from the title of this video. And this is episode 33, chapter 7. Yeah, why not get into it, right? If you haven't read the other episodes and chapters and all that whatnot, be sure you do so. Spoilers, unless you don't care about spoilers and you just want to listen to me talk for 10 minutes. Which I don't blame you. I don't blame you if you enjoy that. Then, by all means, listen. Impulse heard another cry pierce the air, and as he ran, knowing Blake wasn't too far behind, trying to go fast as fast as he could, his heart racing as the adrenaline coursed through him, giving him the drive he needed. My eye just skipped then. Whoopsie. He weaved through the trees as he heard another cry as he neared the clearing. "There's no point calling out for help," a familiar voice said on the other side of the clearing. As Impulse swallowed, he slowed down to peek into the clearing. He could see two figures just on the other side, one looming over the other. The familiar figure of the man looming over his friend was shadowed by trees, but he knew who it was. He didn't have to guess. "How did he get out?" he whispered, more to himself than to Blake. "You know him?" Blake asked warily. "He's the man who attacked me the night of my previous escort left me," Impulse explained. "He must be trying to complete his previous mission." "Not good," Blake said with a frown. "Do you have a plan?" "Not sure," Impulse admitted. "I have nothing to fight with." The young man nodded. Before they could come up with a plan, their attention was drawn back to the conversation in the clearing. "Why are you doing this?" Korean asked, nervously, trying to sit up, only to get kicked back down again. "Here to finish the original plan," the man said darkly. "Though what happened in the meeting hall did cause chaos. It wasn't what I intended." "So?" Korean questioned. "You wouldn't understand, nor do you need to," the man said smoothly. "Simply put, I was rushed to do something when I should have waited. Since your friend saw me, I had no choice. This time, no one can get in my way." Pulse glanced over at Blake, who nodded as the YouTuber took a deep breath. So long as the man was talking, the better chance he'd be too engrossed in his monologue to notice what was happening around him. "You can't be so sure of that," Green admitted, as he tried to sit up again. He picked out of the bed, took something out of his pocket. "I'm very sure no one can help you here when you're so foolishly wandered away from them." "Tricked me," Green pressed. "You should have known better," the man laughed. No matter what's done, it's done. I have something to finish." "No," Crane insisted as Impulse inched closer, wondering if he should just go for it as the man took a step back, holding the potion in hand. Seeing this, Crane attempted to scramble to his feet as the man threw the potion at his feet and the YouTuber collapsed on the floor with a groan before it turned into gasps of pain. "Gran!" Impulse shouted, ignoring all caution as he ran at the man and tackled him before the man could take out another potion. He could hear the man's grunt from under him as he was shoved off, hearing something metal behind him as he sat up and looked back. The man was now facing him, with what appeared to be a night dagger. "Oh, come on, man. You should know better than to get in my way again," the man said as he narrowed his eyes as Impulse got to his feet, glancing over at Green, noticing the potion effects had now worn off. "You don't scare me," Impulse said boldly as the man chuckled. "I'm sure I don't," the man replied. "Perhaps not me personally, but I know you're terrified of what I might do." "Why are you here, other than the obvious?" Impulse asked. "Simply to finish what I started after someone freed me from that prison," the man said with a smile. "Stand out," another voice said from the shadows. Impulse didn't recognize it as the man whirled around to see three of Mr. Walk out over the shadows. "What do you mean, stand down?" the man snapped. "Mr. A wants them preferably alive," one of the guards said, as Impulse took this moment of distraction and ran to Green, who had gotten to his feet. "Very well, then," the man scowled. They turned back to the YouTubers, turning his dagger to where it had come from. I guess that means you're coming with us. I'm pretty sure Mr. A wanted some of the supper, Impulse said simply. He won't like the idea of me escaping. Well, then why not recapture you? The man chuckled as he pulled out a potion. Run! Cricket shouted. And the two of them broke into the trees, Impulse noticing they were heading towards where Gem and Pearl's bases were. He didn't hesitate as he heard glass shattering behind him, the potion effects just barely missing him as he pressed forward, daring not to look back. He could hear the pursuers right at their heels. His focus forward as he saw an object fly overhead. Suddenly he heard his name being called out as he turned back to see one of the men had managed to tackle Green. He turned back and yanked the man off his friend as he got him to his feet. Noticed immediately that Green's elytra rings appeared to have been damaged at some point, which explained why he hadn't just rolled away. Are you okay? He asked quickly. The potion slowed me down, he admitted sheepishly. I should be fine now. I wouldn't be so sure of that, a voice said from behind as the glass shattered. His Impulse gasped in pain, falling to his knees as he watched his friend do the same. Impulse looked back to see the man approach them. You're coming back with us. Not if I can help it, a voice said from their left as Impulse looked to see arrows flying as the man yelped in surprise. Blake came out of the trees with a sword and stood protectively in front of the two YouTubers. I think this is our cue to go. Green stared quietly. The other two YouTubers nodded as the two of the men behind them launched into battle. Impulse half supporting Green towards the two bases, not wanting to look back to see if any of Mr. A's men were nearby. He had a feeling they probably were. So what was it about causing people to suffer? Green asked. Mr. A didn't get what he wanted from me, Impulse replied. He threatened to take it out on you and the other hermits. That's not good. Green nodded as he glanced over his shoulder. Luckily, most of us were smart enough to group in pairs. Most of us? Impulse asked, raising an eyebrow. Green nodded again as he looked at his feet. If what you're saying is true, I want to make sure Scar's okay. Devin went out for another meeting off-world. Some sort of monthly thing. I wasn't around when he went off, and Devin told Scar to stay put. Okay. Impulse nodded. We can get you a pair of wings at one of the girls' places, and we can figure that out from there. Sounds fair. Green said with a smile before he quickly faded. Look out! Impulse turned just as they saw one of Mr. A's men lunging at them from the darkness of the trees as he managed to pull them both away from the man. Suddenly, as the man went to lunge again, someone else flew from the top of the trees and tackled the man, knocking him hard to the ground as the man lay still. Beat-ups? Impulse asked in surprise. He got to his feet and turned to face them with a wide grin. Ah! Two other figures came out of the shadows. There you are, Green. I've been looking all over for you, Green's escort proclaimed in both relief and what sounded like frustration. Green managed with an apologetic smile. He pulled away from Impulse and walked over to him. Think we can drop over the Scars and keep him company for a bit? He's a big looming threat right now, and people might get hurt. Will Impulse be okay? The escort asked nervously. We can take him to Gem and Pearl, it's no problem, B-Deb said happily, looking over at his escort, who nodded. All right, then, the other escort said, nodding in satisfaction as Green held onto him as they launched to the sky, heading over towards Scar's base. I'm assuming your new escort is somewhere around here? B-Deb responded. I'm right here, Blake's voice said as he appeared from behind. Both jumped. Looks like YouTubers aren't the only one who can jump scare people. Good, B-Deb's escort said happily. Let's go to the girls' places while we get everything sorted. Then while we get everything sorted, B-Deb said cheerfully. No one argued as the four of them walked to the two bases. Impulse relieved that he'd managed to escape Mr. A once again, as well as warn his friends about the potential danger that they were all in. Hopefully, it was enough. Chapter 8. Tough cough. It didn't take the four of them long to get to the girls' faces as Impulse kept his focus forward, noticing movement in Jem's front window, mere moments before the door opened. Don't know why that sentence is like that, but that is not how I intended to write it. Impulse, B-dubs, Jem exclaimed as she ran over to them. Is everything okay? Yeah, for the moment, Impulse replied, though I'm not sure how long that will last. What's going on? She asked wearily. Maybe we should discuss inside, B-dubs offered. Are you sure that's smart with, well, you know, Impulse asked wearily. I can control it, Peaches replied with a knowing smile. Better than the last time, don't worry. Okay, Impulse replied with a nod. Inside's good. No one said anything until they got inside of the house and entered the main room. Blake and Beatup's escort stayed outside to scout the area. When Matthias was said to be somewhere in the house, according to Jem. That made the YouTuber feel a little bit more at ease. There were more people around, which meant it would be harder for anyone to attack, if someone chose to go after him. Yeah. Once the three YouTubers got settled, Impulse explained the situation to the other two, doing his best to recall everything he could. He didn't go into much detail about what Mr. A had done to him, just relaying the men's threats. It was what they needed to know. Everything else could be dealt with later, when he had the time. Do you know who they'd specifically target once he finds out you escaped? Jem asked curiously. Impulse shrugged and shook his head. I'm not sure. Probably someone who needed to get to. Definitely late threatening Grian a lot, but after this, I'm sure Grian and his escort will make sure it'll be harder to get to him. Let's hope so, Jem sighed. She took out the portable device she had in her pocket and looked at it before putting it on a side table. She didn't have to explain herself. Impulse already understood. If he still had his, he probably would have taken it out as well. Sadly, his inventory had been completely cleared of everything. So what are we going to do now, exactly? Just sit around and wait? B-dubs asked. I was thinking of going around and checking on the others with my escort, though now I'm not sure if that's a safe idea. I think it's fine if you stay in it for now until this calms down a little bit, Impulse suggested. That choice is ultimately up to you, of course. Yeah, YouTuber nodded. Maybe I'll give it an hour or two, unless we have an emergency distress call. Sounds fair, Jen replied, and then she got to her feet, before looking at Impulse. Do you need anything? Not really. Most of the pain was in my head. The YouTuber chuckled nervously. I don't think there's a potion for erasing those awful memories. Yeah, she chuckled with a small smile. Get you something to eat, though. I'm good, Impulse insisted. All right, she replied. I'm going to make sure the security is at its best. I'll be right back. Impulse nodded as he watched her leave the room, seeing her disappear around the corner. Silence fell over the room as the YouTuber glanced over at the window, just as he heard what sounded like buzzing near him. Speed-Up stood up and walked over to the device on the table. Looks like there's a little bit of trouble over at Fulce's. I'm going to go see if I can give her a hand. Speed-Up replied simply as he looked over at him. You'll be good here? I should be, the YouTuber admitted. Blake is still somewhere outside, and Matthias is somewhere in the house. I'm not alone. Right, Vita said with a nod as he went towards the door, opening it. As he hollered for his escort to follow him. He heard another holler and trees as the YouTuber disappeared off into the sky, followed by his escort. Impulse stood up as he walked over to the door to close it when he heard something in the hallway over to where the secret room had been. Jem, is that you? Impulse asked nervously as he put his hand on the handle of the door. There wasn't a response at first, he added. Matthias? Suddenly, an object flew towards him as Impulse yelped in surprise as the pearl shattered from where he had been standing as he whirled around to see his former escort standing in front of him, in front of the door. Well, it is nice to see you again. The man amused. How long have you been here? Impulse snapped nervously as the man pulled something out of his pocket, a portable communicator. His portable communicator? Oh, not long, the man said casually as he pressed a button before putting it back in his pocket. Just been hiding out from that secret stairway waiting for you. What do you want? The YouTuber asked nervously as he looked out the window, not seeing anything. Make sure I keep that deal, the man scowled. It's not good if you both manage to escape from them then, in my books. You should be expecting visitors in, I don't know, less than 2 minutes? You know I can just go, right? Impulse said as he raised an eyebrow. Would you, Dell? Would you leave a friend behind to fend for herself? That doesn't seem like your type of thing to do, Impulse. The man replies simply. Besides, I'm not letting you leave. Impulse yelped in surprise as the man lunged at him. He tried to dodge him, succeeding for a moment before the man turned on him and knocked him through the glass window as it shattered as he rolled onto the green grass, sparkling with little glass shards in the afternoon sun. The man got to his feet as the YouTuber scrambled away from him as the man lunged again, this time grabbing him as the YouTuber hollered for help. The YouTuber grunted as the man knocked him to the ground. He heard footsteps from behind. His eyes wouldn't leave the man as the man tried to pull him to his feet, just as Blake came running and shoving the man away from him. Are you okay, Impulse? Blake asked with concern. The YouTuber stumbled to his feet. Yeah, fine, he said reassuringly. The other man got to his feet as well. Not for long, the other man replied ominously. He narrowed his eyes at the direction of the YouTuber. Mr. A wants to cause pain, and he won't rest until he sees your kind suffer. Go fight Jim. I can hold him off for now, Blake replied matter-of-factly, with a frown, and Impulse nodded, running back into the house just as Jim appeared in the main room. What's going on? She demanded, as she surveyed the destruction of the window. Why does it always have to be the window? We're going to have visitors, and not the good kind, Impulse admitted, as she nodded, grabbing his arm as she guided him over to his secret room, as the door closed behind them. What about Pearl? I'll find her in a minute. I just want to make sure you're okay, she replied gently. I'm fine, Impulse insisted. He threatened my friends, not me. Tell, what's protocol? She smiled sweetly as they arrived at the bottom of the stairs. Stay quiet and hidden, okay? Impulse nodded as he went over to the armchair near the bookshelf and sat down, deciding not to argue as Jim disappeared back up the stairway, the YouTuber knowing there was a second secret tunnel leading to Pearl's, just in case of an emergency like this. Just like this. He pulled out the communicator he'd been able to snatch from the side table and looked at it. There were a few lights flashing in certain areas. Some were solid green or yellow. None of them were red, though, which is good. His friends had managed to secure themselves enough to ensure that Mr. A's men wouldn't get a chance to hurt any of them. So far, anyway. How long would they need to do this until the men gave up? Would they ever give up? He doubted it. The man was set in stone on his mission, and he would see it through until the end. He watched the screen for what felt like hours until he heard movement from above, looking up to see Pearl and Jim coming down to meet him. Anything new? Pearl questioned. I knew False was having issues earlier. Beatos went to give her a hand, Impulse reported. From what I can see, it seems to have been sorted out. That's good, Jim replied in relief. No one else is in desperate need of rescuing? The YouTuber hesitated as he glanced over at the before shaking his head over again before shaking his head. No. For now, we're all right. How's the scene upstairs? A few Mr. A's men were here, Pearl replied. They were chased away by Blake and Matthias, though, luckily. Since they didn't know exactly where we were to target us, they had to retreat. Still good to be cautious, Impulse admitted. You never know. That's right, Pearl agreed. This is a deadly game of hide and seek right now. Impulse nodded again as he stared at the screen before putting it aside as he looked up at the ceiling. It was basically the waiting game now. My only worry is that they might target Scar, seeing as Devin is still out. Sure, Green and his escort are there, but you two probably know better than any of us that doesn't mean much. I'm sure Green knows just as well, Pearl added. He has friends who've run into these guys plenty of times before. Right. Wonder how she knows that. Gosh. We could go over there now and see how things are going, and if we can help, Pearl offered. I've been working on some tunnels going in that direction anyway. They aren't done, though. Not a bad idea, the YouTuber agreed as he stood up. We should get going then. Could one of you and Blake let Blake and Matthias know where we're going? I can, Shimmer said happily. You two go ahead. I'll be with the cause and meet you there. Got it. Pearl replied eagerly as Impulse followed her to the stairway, going about halfway before she led him into a secret tunnel. The wall. In one of the walls. Are you ready? Ready as I can be. He nodded as he continued to follow her down the semi-well-lit path ahead, hoping it wouldn't take too long to get there. But Julian, I'm going to end here. This is 20 minutes of me talking. And I don't know if you will be able to sit through that. I mean, some people might. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. We'll see if I have to re-record stuff. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one, whenever that might be. Goodbye.